Do you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Hello, everybody. This is Harold Green of Bright Tree Wealth Management, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. Hopefully, you folks are having a fantastic day. Doing pretty good. Just had a very early day for me. Started at about probably like 4 o'clock, more like 3, because sometimes when my mind gets going, it doesn't stop. And, there's a lot of things that have been going on, and I've been doing my best to stay positive about everything and say positive things and, give everyone kind words, smile at people, when I'm driving, let people in, different things like that, just really trying to keep it positive. And I want to get into today's show. And as part of a little series I'm doing titled The Way Out to Financial Stability, because I've been thinking about this a lot. And it's kind of crazy where you have people that they get it in gear, they keep it in gear, and they keep it moving. And then you got people that, they get into these things where they start, they stop, they start, they stop, they get sidetracked, they get distracted. And I kind of been wondering why. And a lot of it boils down to the psychology of money and how people think about money and how that's constantly changing all the time. There's for some people, not everybody, there's no clear cut ideology that they'll stay on it. They'll get on one thing and they'll jump off. They'll hear something, they'll read something, and then they're off to the next thing. And honestly, there's no way to find their way out to financial stability unless there's a stroke of luck. And so I want to get into today's show. It's The Way Out to Financial Stability. And this is going to be part 3. And I want to keep this going. And I'm not going to get too much into investments because, this is an investment show and all investments do carry risk of loss. And, past performance is no indicator of future results. And so when you do your investing, you got to make sure you do your due diligence and make sure you're talking to the right people. Oh man, I don't want to jump the gun on this, but boy, I tell you, I'm going to get into a show. It's going to be like armchair quarterback, where people will give you advice with zero consequence. They'll tell you something and they have no responsibility of how it works out. And people are gullible and they just follow that stupid stuff. And then they don't, let me just stop. I'll get into that later. All right. So I want to keep going on what we've been talking about, like how to get out. Because if you've been listening to the past couple of episodes, you ought to be thinking a little bit differently right now. And you ought to be in a different place mentally. Because I've been exposing some things, not in a way like I've solved everything kind of way, but a more, all right, I'm starting to see what was actually going on. I'm starting to get the big picture here. And that's where I want you, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's when things start to change. Not because you learn something new, but because you're finally looking at it the right way. And that's half the battle is perspective. It's how you see it. And I think I was talking to you guys about how we go out to, California from time to time, because my wife is from Japan. And so all the good Japanese stores are out in California, not here in Vegas. And so when we run low on certain things, like in between our trips to Hawaii and Japan, we might hit up Cali and pick something up. And every time we go, it feels like, all right, I'm good. We stock up, we got what we want, we load up, we bring everything back. And for a moment, it's unloading the car and you're putting the stuff in the cabin. And it's man, yeah, this is cool. I got all my favorite tuna fish. My wife got her noodles and stuff and her ramen and her soba and, natto, whatever, put it in the freezer. And we're good. But here's the difference. We already know one thing is true. We already know this is temporary. We don't pretend that one trip solves everything forever. We expect that we're going to run low again. And because we expect it, we're not surprised by it. And because we're not surprised by it, we don't stress about it. Now, think about that for a second. This is what gets everybody that calls me when the market goes down. Because they see their portfolio at a high, and then all of a sudden something crazy pops off, and now they're panicking and they're stressed out. It's kind of like they never thought it could go down. they only think it should go up. Think about that. That's because that's where a lot of people are. And this is where they get it wrong financially. They treat temporary stability like it's permanent. They treat things are fine right now like that's just how it is. And it's not. It's just a moment where nothing is pressing on you, right? You don't feel any pain because nobody's aggravating the nerve. And I say that because I started getting physical therapy, and they do these treatments now where they do like it's called shockwave, right? There's two different types of like shockwave therapy. There's the EPAT, which is like radio, and that kind of spreads out. It goes into different parts of the tissue, and then there's the focused, where it just goes right to that one area. And once they hit that area, they know where the inflammation is. They know what's going on. And that's the same thing when something pops off in the market. Like that stuff will expose what's really going on with you. And this is where people miss it. Things being fine right now doesn't mean you're stable. It just means there's nothing pushing up against your system. There's nothing stressing it out. That's it. And I'll have people come on board and they like, all right, this is cool. Let's get this started. Boom. I want to get started. And they say they want to get started, but things are kind of okay. They're thinking about, all right, what is things going to look like in the future? So I need to work with Harold so that, things are going to be okay. But things are okay right now, but I don't know about the future. So I want to make sure my future is set, we're financially stable. And I was like, all right, let's go. And then, I'm trying to get people to do stuff and get stuff done. And it's like, okay, how come this is not being done? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, everything is fine right now, but didn't you say you want the future to be stable? Didn't you say you have goals and different things like that? Then you're missing out on valuable opportunities right now because you're not doing what you need to do. Things are fine. And you think that things are fine, so I don't need to do anything. Now let's slow this down just a little bit because this is where it's going to start to connect with you. Right now, for a lot of people listening, things are okay. The market is probably recovered by the time you get the show. You got money coming in, bills are getting paid. Investments, like I said, they might be doing all right. The market probably recovering, you're up a little bit and you're feeling good about it. And that creates this feeling of, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. But you're not asking the question that actually matters. And the question is this: what happens when this stops? What happens when this thing, like, it stops working? It stops cooperating. Like I said in my last show, a lot of people's system is based on everything being perfect, like nothing going wrong, right? It's not if, not when, because something always pops off. Markets don't just go up forever. Income doesn't stay perfectly stable forever, and life doesn't stay predictable forever. It just doesn't work that way. And a lot of people, they build their entire financial life as if it does. And that's where this starts to break on you. Now, let's talk about what actually happens when something changes. Not in theory, not on a spreadsheet, but I'm talking about IRL in real life. Because I've seen this play out over and over again. Everything looks good until it doesn't, right? I have people say, yeah, I want to work with you. And then they like, you don't hear from them again. Well, what happened? I have no idea. They're putting them in a situation where they're just like one thing away from everything, like going from being good to not being good. And it's too late at that point. Now you're scrambling. And everything looks good until it doesn't. And then when it doesn't, that's when the truth shows up. That's when you're scrambling. Not what you thought you had. Not what the plan said. I'm talking about like the truth. We're not talking about practice. We're talking about the real game. Now, let's start with the market. I already put out my disclosure. Investments carry risk of loss. Everybody know that. Because this is the one everybody thinks they understand until they're in it, right? The market drops. Now, we're not talking about a little pullback, not something you ignore. I'm talking about the kind of drop where people start talking about it everywhere. Like the noise is just so loud and you start to hear different opinions, and those opinions start to drive people to panic. And at first you try to stay logical. If you are a logical thinking person, you try to stay logical. And I was talking to a client yesterday and we were making changes in her 401k. And, we didn't have any Tesla in there because I've been out of Tesla in her account for a while. And I said, how do you feel about Tesla? She said, honestly, I don't know. I don't have enough data on it. I don't have enough knowledge on it to even give you an answer. Everything out there I hear is just noise. And so I ignore it. And I said, fantastic. I'm going to put some in your portfolio now. And she was like, good. I trust your judgment. All right. So you try to stay logical. You tell yourself, this is normal. Like, I just got to stay the course. But then guess what you go do? You go look at your account. And now it's not theory anymore. Now it's real. Now it's your money. And something shifts. Not in your portfolio, in your mindset. You start watching it more, right? You be like, man, come on, get back up. It's like watching your favorite fighter get knocked down. Get up, man. Come on, get up. You're screaming at him. Yo, get up. They start counting 1, 2. You're like, get up. And you start thinking about it more. You start questioning more like, does Harold know what he's doing? Did I sign up with the right guy? Let me go talk to my friends about this. And this is the moment right here. This is where things start to change. You go from being passive to feeling like you need to do something. That feeling right there, that's pressure. That's all that is. And once pressure shows up, everything changes. And guess what? A lot of people panic under pressure. I'm going to say that one more time. A lot of people, they panic under pressure because now you're not operating from a plan. You're operating from how you feel. You're making trades in your portfolio based on how you feel, and you're panicking. And feelings, guess what? They don't make great financial decisions. They just don't. Let me say that clearly. Nobody makes great decisions when they feel like they have to. I mean, nobody. Not you, not me, not professionals. When you feel forced, you react. And that's crazy. Because a lot of guys, I'm going to tell you like it is, a lot of guys up there on Wall Street, they trying to keep their job. That's all they trying to do. They're trying to keep their job. Portfolios down 2% in a couple of quarters, they're gone. It's crazy. There is no grace period for a lot of these big companies. And so you got to be making changes and choices all the time. You'd be like, okay, let's say we're holding the same 10, 15 positions in the portfolio, and we're doing it for the long run, right? But yet you got these guys on Wall Street, they're supposed to be doing it for the long run too. But the fundamentals are the same, theory's the same, everything's the same. But when their clients start losing millions of dollars, people start tripping and they don't want to get fired because you're making 2, 3, 4, $500,000, sometimes $2 million a year managing these funds or working in these funds. And you don't want to give up that job. So guess what? You're like, hey, I don't want my clients to lose money. I'm not losing my job. So let's get out. Let's bail. And that's why you see a lot of these big, large institutions bailing on stuff and, creating panic in the market. Because again, people don't want to lose their jobs. And reacting is where mistakes happen. We have charts to show you this stuff, history, years and years and years. Every time something goes crazy, what do the large funds do? We have all this. We have charts. You can look this up on the internet by yourself. Now, let's put something on top of that. I want to put income on top of that because this one is different. Market drops, that's one thing. But income changing, that's personal. Now it's not just numbers on a screen. Now this is your life. The bills don't stop. Expenses, they don't quit. And your responsibilities don't wait. The private school tuition is going to be coming. Christmas is coming. Birthdays are coming. And those things need to be handled. And now you're forced into decisions like this, right? Do I pull money from my investments? Do I cut back? Do I put something off? That trip, I was going to take my wife over here. She's been working hard and I promised her this and now I can't do it. And again, you're not choosing, you're reacting. And when you're reacting, timing gets messed up. And timing, it matters more than people think. And I was talking to a client about this the other day and she's like, this happens more time than not. And if you're a client and you're listening to my show and this has happened between me and you before, I'm not calling you out. I'm not doing that. I'm just talking about like what people do. Okay. So I talk a lot about the CNN Fear and Greed Index. Okay. And when the CNN fear and greed index is down to like an 8 or something like that, I'm putting out market minutes like every other week, telling clients, hey, yo, if you got money in the bank, give it to me right now. If you got money that you're sitting on that you don't need for a year or two, give it to me right now. And I may get like one client or two. And one that I can think of that comes to mind a lot who does this, his name is Larry Hill. Larry, thank you. Because every time like the market goes down, Larry sends me whatever he can. So Larry, I appreciate it. He sends it to me then. All right. And then the CNN fear and greed index gets up to like neutral and then goes to greed. Then I get people calling saying, hey, should we send you more money now? I'm like, no, I don't want it. And if you do send it, I'm going to put it in something super conservative because now you're putting it in here to work when the market is at greed. This is contrary to what we ought to be doing. And so I'm not going to take the risk of putting your money at risk in a greedy environment because I know what's going to happen. There's going to be a pullback after that. People are going to start taking profits and then your account's going to go down again. And then you're going to panic again. And it's like, then you're going to lose faith. And this is the kind of stuff that gets your timing all out of whack, right? You ought to be contrary because every single time something is popped off, within, I don't know, for us, it's 6 to 12 months the portfolios are back. But for others, it could be 12 to 30 months, depending on what they're invested in and depending on their timing. And this is where things get messed up because even the right decision at the wrong time becomes the wrong decision. That's bad. And then there's the thing that nobody plans for. It's called life, right? The health issues, family situations, unexpected expenses, things like that. Right now I'm going through all this physical therapy because of all the golf injuries and got weightlifting injuries. I got things from playing sports in high school and in the military, just a lot of things. The body breaks down. You gotta take care of it, right? And here's what's interesting. It's usually not just one thing. It's multiple things at the same time. It's like they give you a deck of cards, not like one card or two cards. They give you like a whole deck of cards with all kinds of stuff, some good, some bad. Like for example, the market isn't cooperating, right? You feel some kind of way. And the boss comes in and say, hey, we might be laying some people off. You've been here for a while, so I think you might be safe. Your income, it feels uncertain. Something personal shows up. You go home, all the stress, you snap at your wife, you snap at your spouse, you yell at your kids. Now you got friction at the house, right? And now things are layered like that taco dip. And when it layers, right, that's when they start to feel overwhelmed. And that's when things go bad. That's when you start to lose confidence, right? You feel like you don't know what you're doing. You start second guessing everything. And now everything that felt stable, now it just feels like you're walking on eggshells. Not because you failed or you did something wrong, but because your system was never built to handle that kind of pressure. And this is the part I really want you to understand. It's not the event that creates the problem. It's kind of like your position when the event happens. Like what position are you in when stuff go down? That's it. So I like to give you scenarios of two people, same market, same situation, like the same environment, but they're going to get completely different outcomes. How come? Better yet, why? One has options, right? One has options. The other has like obligations. And I've said this before, but it matters here more than ever because if you got options create calmness, right? I know there's more than one way to get something done and be okay. So I'm cool. But if I just have obligation after obligation and I don't have any options and I'm forced, it just creates pressure. And pressure is where people lose control, right? Like everybody can hang in there, everybody can hang on until there's just one thing that just gets you and then you just snap. So let me ask you something. And I want you to actually think about this. And it goes like this. If something changed tomorrow, would you feel like you had to act? Or would you feel like you had space to be like, okay, I can figure this out? Because that feeling right there, that tells you everything. Not your account balance, not your returns, not your position. And what I want to talk about in the next episode is I want to talk to you about a shift that has to happen, because right now, most people are trying to move forward without protecting themselves from what can knock them backwards. And that's why the cycle keeps repeating. It's the same pattern, it's different people until someone steps back and they build it differently. And oh man, like I be trying my best to get people to understand this. I be trying my best to get people to see this, but there's just too much noise. There's too much propaganda out there, and they keep falling into it. And, I hear a lot of things out there, and I have a certain viewpoint that I hold in my life. And sometimes I'll hear other people that have the same viewpoint as I do, but sometimes they'll say something that doesn't totally align. And I have to say, okay, whoa, 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 back that up. All right. Look, I can't get with that. You know why? Because I have a system, I have a strategy, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's crazy because when I look at what I'm doing in my portfolio and I want to do the same thing with other people, there's one thing that separates how I look at it from how they look at it. And I see it like this: as long as the earth remains, there's something called seed time and harvest, sowing and reaping. And investing is a form of sowing, but you also have to reap. So we have to sow and we have to reap. And the other thing is I don't lose sleep over my portfolio. I just don't, because I know I got the research behind me. And what I do is I share all of that with my clients. I share that with people on these shows. And for some reason or the other, it's like it gets ignored. And the pressure comes in, they panic and they do crazy stuff in their portfolios. It is what it is. There's no way out to financial stability doing that kind of stuff. And if you're like that and you're ready to get off that train, you're ready to build something stable, all you got to do is reach out to us, right? Go on the website, request an appointment, request a conversation with me. My minimum is 500,000. I'm about to raise it to $1 million. Okay. And I'm not going to get into the reasons why, but about to raise it to $1 million in the next 6 months. So if you're not on board with me in the next 6 months, chances are we won't be working together. But thanks for listening to the show. I encourage you to reach out now versus later. And until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
This is the podcastfactory.com.